Hello, my name is Aaliyah, and today I am talking to you about my favorite part of the brain, which is the hypothalamus. Let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the location of the hypothalamus. Um, Hypothalamus translates to below the thalamus, so as you could probably guess, the hypothalamus is located right below the thalamus, which is very deep in the brain. Um, Next, we're going to talk about what we already know. Um, the hypothalamus is extremely small. Fun fact, it only takes up about 0.33% of the brain weight, and it is roughly the size of a pea. The hypothalamus is also part of the limbic system, and this is the main part of the brain that involves our behavioral and emotional responses. Lastly, the hypothalamus keeps the body balanced and at a stable state, referred to as homeostasis. Homeostasis is essentially a balance among all the systems of the body needed for the body to survive and function correctly. Next, we're going to get into all of the functions of the hypothalamus. Essentially, the hypothalamus is just a regulatory center. It serves as this control center in our body. And a good way to remember this is by using an analogy. I like to think of it kind of as a smart control that you would have in your house, kind of like an Alexa, where you could say, like, hey, Alexa, turn the lights off, and it just does it. So it just is one thing that helps manage all of the functions in your house at once. Just the same as the hypothalamus controls and manages a bunch of things within ourselves, and it's just one little thing. So the hypothalamus helps our bodies manage our body temperature, our blood pressure, hunger and thirst, a sense of fullness, mood, sex drive, sleep, and a lot of other things as well. The hypothalamus is able to regulate all of these behaviors because of its unique structure. Unlike most parts of the brain, which are single homogeneous structures, it is instead a collection of nuclei. This collection of nuclei allows for each nucleus to participate in the specific behaviors of the body. Another function of the hypothalamus is that it directs our body's autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is a system in our bodies that essentially controls the body functions that work automatically. This system is in the PNS, or peripheral nervous system. The hypothalamus works at the autonomic nervous system by receiving chemical messages from nerve cells in our body, which is also responding to signals outside of your body. The hypothalamus receives these signals and sends out new signals directing the body on what it should do. A few examples of how the hypothalamus helps the autonomic nervous system is by directing it to speed up or slow down your heart rate, or contracting or inhibiting your bladder. And lastly, I don't think I have this on my slides, but the final main function of the hypothalamus is that it controls the endocrine system. The endocrine system is made up of several organs, which are known as glands, and glands create or secrete and release hormones. Hormones are obviously chemicals in your body that coordinate different functions by carrying out messages throughout your body to various organs like your skin or your muscles and other tissues. The hypothalamus regulates the system by using information from the body to determine when to tell other glands to produce these certain hormones. That is essentially all of the main functions of the hypothalamus. Next, I want to kind of get into the pituitary gland, and I know it's kind of odd to talk about another part of the brain when I'm focusing on the hypothalamus, but the role of the hypothalamus can't really be perceived all the way if we're not talking about the pituitary gland. So, the pituitary gland is directly connected to the hypothalamus, and it's responsible for releasing a lot of the hormones that I just mentioned previously. The pituitary gland is broken down into two main parts, the anterior and posterior pituitary. And then the hypothalamus receives signals from the body and in return release hormones to the anterior pituitary to tell them when to release their hormones to the rest of the body. A good example of this is the hypothalamus will release growth hormone, releasing hormone, which will tell the anterior pituitary when to release growth hormone. This hormone stimulates growth in your long bones and your big muscles. The posterior pituitary is responsible for storing two of the hormones released by the hypothalamus, which are oxytocin and vasopressin. Next, I would want to get into what would kind of happen if there was damage to the hypothalamus and just everything that would go about that and what would really go on if that was unfortunate to happen. So damage to your hypothalamus, it's just essentially not going to cause it to function as it should, which is not good, obviously, because the hypothalamus regulates so many different things within our body. So any damage done to the hypothalamus will lead to the hypothalamic dysfunction. The main cause of hypothalamic dysfunction is any direct contact with the hypothalamus, but in rare cases, genetic disorders can affect it. Some examples of direct contact would include a traumatic brain injury, a brain tumor, brain surgery, radiation and chemotherapy, and honestly a lot of other things as well. There is no condition for just hypothalamic dysfunction, but it does play a role in a lot of other conditions, as the hypothalamus is responsible for receiving so many signals throughout the body, and if there's damage done to it, then it's obviously going to have trouble regulating and sending proper hormones at the right time. One example of this is Prader-Willi syndrome. This is a condition where the hypothalamus doesn't recognize the body's sensation of being full when eating without the sensation that you have a constant urge to eat, and you are at a very high risk for obesity. So, as the hypothalamus is so small and located so deep in the brain, there are almost no procedures that can be done on this part of the brain. The only successful surgery on the hypothalamus that I have found was a hypothalamus hematoma, which is a benign tumor, and that's if it's removed from it. There's no surgeries that are directly on the hypothalamus apart from the one known as the posterior hypothalamus sparing surgery, which is relatively untested. So to this day, it's still not really successful or anything like that. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. The hypothalamus is so awesome because it controls so many important things. It's like the brain's control center, keeping everything in balance so you can survive and feel good. And I don't know about you, but I love to feel good. Thank you for watching.